All right, here's another question we had. I want to shoot stuff. And good, that's a great thing to do inside of Unity. We're going to create a new project called Shoot Stuff. And again, this is going to be a 2D project, and we'll create it up right here. There's some old code. We're going to use some glitch assets. And again, we are going to shoot a little projectile when we hit the space bar. And then we'll do a little bit of cleanup using our timer at the end there. So I'm just going to grab a few glitch assets and just start dragging them in. It doesn't really matter, although this guy is kind of cool. And this could be our bottom. And what are we going to be shooting? Let's see if we can find any kind of projectile, fried rice, fried noodles. How about a fried egg? That looks good. All right, so I'm going to drag this thing up. I'm just going to stretch this thing out, make it look ridiculous. This will be as our bottom floor here. I'm going to add component, physics 2D, box collider to this thing. And here's our little guy. I'm going to put him up here. Why not? Physics 2D, rigid body, add component, physics 2D, box collider 2D. Here he is. And here is our egg that this thing will shoot. So here's the start of everything. Ooh, camera. Change that color. And I kind of cruised through some of that stuff because we've done that in some of the other tutorials. So if that was fast, go back and check out some of the physics tutorials that we've already done on this channel. Okay, so here's my little guy. I'm going to write a C# script. Call it ghost controller. And I'm going to attach that to my ghost. Oops. And we're going to edit this. And essentially what we're going to do is we are going to try to shoot those eggs as soon as we press the space. So I'm going to get rid of this. We already know how to do part of this, right? We know how to detect if somebody has just pressed the space bar. If, oops, not operating system family. If input dot get key down key code dot space, then we will shoot egg. Why is this red? There we go. All right, so if somebody presses the space bar, then we are going to shoot the egg. So how do we actually do that? Let's go back here. So we know we have an egg, this thing. There's a few different ways we're going to do it. So I am going to show you a good way to do it. And there's a million ways to do this sort of thing. So the idea is, what if when we want to be able to push the spacebar a million times and shoot a million eggs. And so each time we create an egg, if this egg here that we create already had the properties of moving, then we really wouldn't have to worry about anything. We would just create an egg and we would let the system handle the moving of it. And so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to create a new C# script, and I will call it, for lack of a better word, egg. And I'm going to attach it to this thing in my scene. Egg. And now let's edit that. And so basically what I want to say is, get rid of this update for now. Yes. And I just want to say get component rigid body 2D dot add force, just like we've been doing, vector 2, and we want this thing to go to the right, so we'll say, I don't know, 50, and we're not going to do anything in the Y. Just want to shoot it off to the right. So we've been working with this line for the past few tutorials, so if this is kind of foreign to you, go check it out. But essentially, we are going to add a force to our egg in the right direction, nothing in the Y direction. And this is going to happen on start. So as soon as we start up our project, or as soon as we create our egg, we're going to do this. So let's see what happens. But in order to do that, our little egg has to have a rigid body and a box collider. Okay. So now if I hit play, this thing should kind of shoot off to the right. Let's see what happens. It did. It didn't go very far. So let's make this a little bit bigger. I don't want it to go too far. Like that. Okay, that's better. And then it slides a little bit. That's cool. So that's the behavior that we want. But we don't want to have it when we start the game or the scene. We only want to have it when we push the spacebar. So we're getting really close. Let's take a look at this fried egg for a second over here that we've created. So this fried egg down here is just the image. But this one is the image. It's got a box collider. It's got an egg script on it. It's got a rigid body. It's got all these components. And so when we create it on the fly, when we hit the spacebar, this is the thing we want to create, not this thing. And in order to do that, we need to bring this thing down into our assets window so that it's something we can create. So I'm going to drag fried egg from up here that's got all our stuff on it down here into the assets window. And this is creating a prefab. So we've maybe talked about prefabs before, but this is how you build one. And now I'm going to delete this thing out of my scene. So I just deleted it out of my hierarchy. But it is still down here. And it's got this little cube which says it's a prefab. So there's a difference, even though these two things are called the same thing. There's a difference between them, right? This one that I have selected right now is just the image. This one with the little cube on it is all the stuff. The box collider, the egg script, the rigid body, the whole package. And that's what we want to create. So I'm going to go back to my ghost controller. And so we need to create that egg prefab. One way we got to do that is we need to know what an egg is. So we're going to make a public game object egg. Okay, so public game object egg. Just by putting this one line in here, if you go back to Unity and click on our ghost, here's our ghost controller script. Now there's something down here called egg. See it down here? Didn't used to be there, but because we did this, now it shows up and says, okay, I know there's going to be an egg. I don't really know what that is, but there will be something there. And so we need to hook this thing up to our prefab, to the one with all the stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag over here my fried egg prefab, the one that looks like a cube, not just the image. I'm going to drag it all the way over here into this parameter on the right where it says egg. So I'm going to click, drag this thing over here. Okay. So by doing that, now this script is aware of what this thing actually is. So that when we determine that there is the spacebar pressed, all we gotta do is create one of these things on the fly. And remember that this egg is this prefab, which means it has a rigid body, it has a box collider, and it has the egg script, which inside the egg script on start, we're going to add a force in the X direction. Right? All that stuff is already in there. So all we need to do here, we don't need to shoot an egg, we need to create one. Because all the other stuff is with it. So let's create it. I'm going to type this thing out and then explain it as I go. It's kind of long, but it's not that bad. And once you see it, you'll just keep doing it over and over again. So the way it goes, and I'm going to leave a blank line because I'm going to come back here and make something up there. But so in computer terms, instead of creating, we're going to instantiate. Instantiate. So what are we going to create? It's going to be an egg. It's going to ask us where do we want it. And we're going to create it wherever our ghost controller is, wherever our ghost happens to be. So if we added some more stuff of moving our ghost all around the screen, we would want to be able to shoot it from wherever the ghost is. So since this script that we're typing in is attached to the ghost, we want to create it at the location of this particular script. So I'm going to say transform.position. All right. Then the last parameter is the rotation. And this will, for the most part, until you really need to change it, is always going to be the same. Quaternion.identity, which means don't rotate. If you want to get into quaternions, go for it. For now, just type it in. Okay, so look at all this stuff. This looks great. It's wrong. I will tell you right now that it's wrong, but we are really close. So think about what we're doing. We've defined what an egg is. And this egg we hooked up in the Unity, which is our egg, our collider, our rigid body, and our script. And that's what we're going to create. So we're going to instantiate it. Where are we creating it? We're creating it right where this script is, which is attached to the ghost controller. So we're creating a new egg right on top of ourselves. and we're leaving the rotation alone. So this part here, this is what's wrong. And let me show you what happens. Let's hit play. Should work to a certain extent. So now when I shoot, oh yeah, actually that looks kind of cool. So yes, this is not really what I was trying to do, but it looks awesome. So the reason the reason it looks all weird is because we are creating this egg at the very same position where this thing is, where our little ghost is, and so we're colliding with each other as soon as we create the egg. We really want to create the egg a little bit to the right so that it doesn't collide with the ghost when we first make it. But it actually is giving it, it's kind of a cool effect. Oh, we're off screen now. So let's do that. It's not too hard. And that's why I left a little space here, because this transformed out position is the position of our ghost, and we actually want to use this position, but we want to increment the x value a little bit so that that we're creating it in front of our ghost. So let's say vector 2 position equals transform dot position. Okay, so we're going to create a temporary position, and we're going to set it equal to the location of our ghost. And we're going to say position dot x equals position dot x. We'll just say +1 float. And then down here, instead of transform dot position, which is the position of the ghost, we're just going to type in position, which is this position here, that we used the position of the ghost as a starting point, and then we added 1 to it. So now it's going to be 1 unit to the right. Let's see what happens. There we go. So it's still colliding. So let's make it more than 1. How you figure this thing out? You see it moving, so we'll just make it 2. Now there are ways to figure this out so that you're not just guessing, but guessing works to a certain extent. There we go. So now I'm shooting. My little ghost isn't moving, and we are shooting eggs all over the place. Now we're moving because we're getting stuck here, but that's the idea. Wow, that makes like a really cool looking shield. Okay, so that's it. That's how we shoot stuff, and we can change. There it goes. The speed that we shoot it by changing this force here inside of our egg script. And that's it. This is kind of ugly though, because normally if you're shooting eggs, they're going to disappear after a period of time. And so that's the one last piece that we're going to add is to make sure we don't end up in this situation, because this kind of sucks. But if you want it to be this way, then that's fine, you're done. But if you want these things to disappear like after a second or two, so that your screen isn't filled with them, then keep watching. So we talked about timers in another script, or in another video. But on this one, we're going to set a timer inside of our egg script. As soon as we start, so as soon as we hit the space bar and create one, we're going to set a timer for a second and then destroy the egg that we created. That's the idea. So we'll say IEnumerator, just like we did on our timer example, destroy egg. And we say yield return, new wait for seconds. Let's do 2 seconds. And we want to destroy game object. Okay, so let's look at this thing. When we fire this thing off, and we're going to have to add another line of code right here. So we will be adding a piece of code on line 10 to actually start this function. But when we come in here, we're going to wait for 2 seconds, and then we're going to destroy game object. So this game object, little g game object, look at that. Make sure you get that case right. Little g game object refers to the game object that this particular script is attached to. And this is attached to an egg. If we have 100 eggs in our scene, each one has a copy of this script. And each copy of the script knows which one it's talking about. So it will destroy the egg that it is attached to. So it's not going to destroy all the eggs in the scene. It's just going to destroy the egg that it is attached to. All right, so in order to start this thing off, remember we'll do a start coroutine. Destroy egg. Like this. And so when we hit the space bar, we're going to create an egg, which is going to create all this stuff. Our start method is going to throw the egg to the right. Then we're going to start a coroutine called destroy egg. And remember, we get a copy of all of this stuff for every egg that we create. Destroy egg is going to sit here for 2 seconds, and then it's going to destroy the game object. This game object with the little case g is referring to the particular egg that this thing is attached to. All right. Yeah, let's go back and see what happens. So now when I shoot, we should wait 2 seconds, and there it goes. So even if I have a bunch of these things, they'll all just sort of start to disappear in the order that we created them. All right, so that is how you shoot stuff.